name's Terry, and I am doing my very first video today. It's Friday, and I only work till noon on Fridays. One of the very lucky few. Love my job. Gotta love that. And so I decided Fridays would be the day that I would start doing YouTube videos and teach you some of the things that I've learned in the last 8 years. A little bit about me. I've been into gardening or plants for about 8 years, and when I first moved into my forever home, I didn't know the difference between a weed and a flower, and I would have to learn a new weed each week that I was out picking so that I could become familiar. In fact, we had some black-eyed Susans, and I was convinced they were sunflowers. That's how little I knew. I also killed a lot of plants. I even killed hens and chicks. You know, they're supposed to be indestructible, but I figured out how to do it. So I've had to educate myself and become reliant on Google, YouTube, Facebook groups, and just educate myself, and then through trial and error. And so today I decided I was going to do this, so I wanted to surround myself by a lot of my favorite planters and plants, and you can see that I got a variety here. Even though my heart is with succulents, over the last year I've really become drawn more and more to the house plants, even though I've got, I think it's 18 grow lights in the basement to keep my succulents alive and my dudes alive. I still want, you know, the greenery in my house. I want to enjoy when it's too cold to go outside. Living in Kansas, we have the seasons, and you just got to get your plant fix in any way that you can. You can see that I have a variety of items, and I really like upcycling containers. I'm pretty thrifty. I like, the cheaper I can get something, the more I'm going to like it. If I get it for free, I'm going to love it. And I have a lot of red and white vintage things, and then I like galvanized items as well. I have a lot of dudes. I've started collecting all the varieties, but this pale puma is my absolute favorite. I mean, this one, I don't know, it just speaks to me. It's like every time I go into the room, that's where my eye gravitates. I've kind of gotten on a pothos kick. I was one of them, just like many of them out there, that thought that there was one variety of pothos and it was a philodendron, you know. But the more I learn, the more I realize that there's a whole other world out there, and I have one of those here. I have a few of my other favorite plants around me as well. They're planters. I think the combination of having just the right pot with just the right plant, and that's where having a variety and shopping secondhand or having friends look out for you comes in really handy. But what I wanted a video about today to start my adventure here on YouTube is the Hoya, and propagating the Hoya to make more plants, because I kind of have an addiction to the planters and being thrifty. And when COVID-19 broke out, I was afraid that I was going to have to give up something that I loved, and that was gardening, because, you know, every year I spend more and more money to redo gardens, and I literally have spaces all around my house. There's not a spot that isn't an individual garden. And so I challenged myself to do a $0 garden. And I started by bartering and selling little solo cups of hens and chicks, and just trying to get enough so that I could go and buy the annuals that I needed for my salsa garden and the other things that I needed. And of course, when you get started and people realize that you're into plants, sometimes things are gifted to you. And I had a lady that when I first started, she lives down the street. She was absolutely wonderful. She was feeding the new gardener by giving me plants as she was thinning out. And I might kill them the first time. I've admitted that I've killed just about everything once. But I would learn something. Each time that I would have a failure, I would have a success, because I would learn something that I was not supposed to do in that particular plant. Anyway, so I've kind of, being a small town Kansas girl, I live in a town where everybody knows everybody, and so I like to post pictures of my plants and different things that I'm working on. And so a friend of mine called me. Her neighbor had passed away, and they were trying to find a mom for her plants. And the day that I showed up, it was a cold, windy Kansas winter day, and they just took a beating getting into my car and then out of my car to come into the house. And she had 3 nice size Hoyas, and this is one of them. And I ended up losing some stems, and you know, rather than to be sad, I just decided I'm going to propagate those. Well, I didn't know much about Hoyas. You know, yeah, I do a lot of succulents, but I'd never owned a Hoya. And so what I did was a lot of research, and one of the things I found was the ziplock or the gallon bag or the, you know, reclosable bag greenhouse. And that's what these are. And so what I did is I watched the videos, I did some reading, and it sounded to me like this was going to be the fastest way to get my Hoyas up and going. And I wanted to be able to, with the zero garden and trying to keep that going, I wanted to be able to propagate some of these and put them in some of my funner recyclable containers so that, you know, I could post them on my local buy-sell trade groups and, you know, try to be able to purchase something else for a future item in the gardens. When I say upcycled containers, you know, like this little teapot set, I've got a teapot hanging above my window in this same set, but I pulled these down because I wanted them in my video because red's my favorite color, and I wanted to have as much red on the table as I could. But back to the bag. What I did was I took my succulent soil that I make myself. I'll just do another video on that another Friday. Anybody that asks me, I'm always happy to share with how I did that at the different workshops and things that I've done. But what I did is I put the soil in here and I moistened it down and I mixed it up, for lack of better terms, and made sure that it was all evenly distributed. And then I did my propagating. I cut my Hoya in different spots and then I put them all in here. And one of the things that I noticed when I put them in here is I didn't get them all in the dirt, but because I'm trying to do some experimenting here, I just went with it. I did this on Christmas Day. I even marked it, and being in small town Kansas, I only had a couple of bags to work with, so I knew I was crowding the bags, but I didn't have means of getting out and going and buying any. And so basically, I wanted to show you that how fast that they have developed roots. I mean, this really is like game changing for me. This one you can see, I put the white container here, you can see that there's already a root on that. And that root's been there for about a week now because I've been checking on these babies. I'm not the girl that's going to blow this up and leave it in the window for 3 months and be like, oh yeah, I got some Hoyas now. I need to get them out and plant them. No, I'm the girl that's going in there every day and checking, do I got any roots? How are my babies doing, you know? This one right here, I've only got one little itty bitty root there. So this is one that obviously is not in the dirt. But I did notice that I've got like this one right here. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Since December 25th, I already have this much growth on here. So anyways, I have all these beautiful Hoyas that I have in here, and I had 2 bags. I did 2 bagfuls. I'm going to pull out a couple more. This one's got a root on it. Not as good as the one, but better than the other. And so what I plan to do is go ahead and take some of these out and get them into some dirt and then put them back in the bag like I'm going to show you over here. This one right here has got a ton of roots. Look at that. But I did have more nodes on this one. And if you know anything about propagating, you know that a little bit of that comes along with however many nodes you put in or get. But anyways, so basically what I did was I filled up the bag, got it moist. I already told y'all that. Put the plants in. And then I sprayed it down with my water spritzer. And then you just you spray everything the side of the bag. And then you close the bag. And then you just air it up and close it. Now this is where being a tight ass does not work. You're going to have the slider bag because this bag right here is a pain in the butt to close and it's not a slider. But I knew it was going to be pretty temporary, and I'll know for in the future to go ahead and buy the slider bags. So that's my Hoya. But in that same batch of plants that I was telling you about, there was this great big one long stem. I mean, I want to exaggerate by telling you it was 50 feet long, but it was pretty long. And it was half dead by the time I got it in the house, all that wind. And so I got a hold of a friend that I knew about purple passions because she had posted that she was interested in finding one. And so she said, put it in a warm, moist spot and cover it if you need to, and it'll come back to life. Well, before it came back to life, I was scared. I was like, before it dies too bad, I need to cut this and propagate it. So that's what I did. I cut several pieces. I ended up, because I did do some crowding, admittedly, I ended up losing some leaves in the crowding. But look at this. Look at that rootage. That's from December 25th, and today is the 15th of January. So that is quite a bit of roots for such a small amount of time, in my opinion. And even in here, you can see that this wasn't there. That's all new growth. And I've got more in here. I mean, this bag is full. You can see that they all have good growth. I won't bore you by pulling them all out, but I do want to show you what I did. I have a friend, we share plants back and forth all the time. We always say, just one more plant. This is the last one. We gotta stop doing this. And then we do it again. But see, I'm one step ahead of her because see, these are free. So, you know, I can say, well, it was free. It didn't cost me anything. And since I like things free a whole lot better than I like something that cost me 50 bucks, I feel like it's a win. Anyways, I had taken these out last week when I noticed that they were rooting out so good. And I got a couple of these disposable things that other plants had come in. And I just stuck it in here, and you can see I've got new growth here too. And I got 2 plants here. So the reason why I put it in here is because obviously this is a really humid environment. I decided, okay, I'm gonna put them in the pots, and I'm gonna set the pots in here. I'm gonna close it up, and I'm gonna let it live like that for a week or 2 in the pot, which I think today I'm gonna go on to the next step, and I'm gonna leave it open. I'm gonna leave it open like this, but still in the bag, so it's acclimating slowly to my dry house, because as most of us in the winter, we have central heat and air, and so because of that, we have low humidity, and these plants appreciate higher humidity. In fact, I have a couple of those plant humidifiers coming, and then I've got room humidifiers as well, but when it comes to these tropical plants, you can never have too much, right? So basically, as of today, I'm going to leave this open, and then in a few days, I'm going to pull it down to where this is just covering the base of the pot, and then a few days after that, I'll set it out where it's going to go in front of my windows and such. But I don't know if I've taught you anything in today's video, if it's just been a little bit of babble and first time jitters, but I certainly appreciate you taking time to watch it. And I don't know a lot about the different social networks. I basically until now have only been on Facebook, and I don't have a lot of group pages, none that I do other than belonging to them. I'm not like a head of any group or anything. But I'm hoping that with YouTube that maybe you will like my video and maybe subscribe, because I definitely would like to continue to share some of these things with you each week on Fridays. And then hopefully you can maybe make a suggestion of something that you would like to see or something you would like to learn about. And if it's within my wheelhouse and something that I know about and can tell you about with certainty, then I'll be happy to do that. You'll notice I called these guys by dudes because I don't want to offend anybody, but I know you know what I'm talking about. And I want to point out before I sign off one of my utmost favorite plants, and that's the frizzle sizzle. You'll also see that I have a big one over here that I even kind of tied up a little bit because all this new growth wants to lay down. And so anyways, I did that. I hope that you enjoyed seeing my beautiful babies. I like being a plant mom, and for today, I'm going to tell you goodbye, and I hope you enjoyed my video, and will come back and see me again. Thank you.